Joining us also this week, failure is not an option. Our world on any given day is full of computer problems, staffing problems, and budget problems, but regardless, we cannot have problems with law and order and available emergency services. Government's purpose starts right there. Lubbock's mayor campaigned in part on shoring up problems like that, and it was about a year ago that the city gave Lubbock police a $7.4 million check to fix problems that included documented issues with responses to 911 calls. But a frustrated Mayor Payne sending out a social media post recently after a meeting on the current 911 situation, saying, quote, "The citizens of Lubbock deserve the very best in police and public safety, and the dispatch issues should be improving, not getting worse." The mayor went on to say that he and the city manager expect Lubbock Police Chief Floyd Mitchell to actually make this a priority. And it took several days, but Chief Mitchell posted his own social media response, saying that Lubbock is dealing with an issue that's common throughout the country right now. The dispatcher's emergency center is woefully understaffed with 51 open positions. Chief Mitchell saying they took about 30,000 calls last year where the caller hung up for whatever reason before that call was answered, more than double that of the previous year.
You may hear the term abandoned and think that 30,000 calls went unanswered. That is simply not the case. Abandoned calls include several categories. Of those abandoned calls, 26,448, or 88.1%, were either called back by our communication center personnel or the caller called us back first. 441 calls rolled over to LFR dispatch, of which 382 call sheets were routed back to our call center for a police response. 10.6% of the calls were unserviceable, which means their phones did not have a serviceable contract with a provider and could not receive incoming calls. This breakdown accounts for 100% of the 911 emergency calls we received in 2022.
So far, Chief Mitchell has not agreed to answer our specific questions about those percentages and the situation with the 911 response. And certainly staffing issues are a common problem in nearly every sector since the pandemic, and this is a valid explanation until you're one of the people desperately needing a 911 operator to answer the phone, and they don't. KAMC Jaxie Pigeon spoke with one of them.
I came in to find my dad on the floor, bleeding out of the back of his head. I didn't know at that moment how much.
Renee Acker's 91-year-old father had collapsed. Blood splattered everywhere. She says she called 911 several times, even from different phones, but could never get through to a dispatcher.
I never in my life thought that when you called for help, there wouldn't be anybody.
Acker ran over to her neighbors for help. One neighbor called in and was able to get through to the non-emergency line.
I didn't think that the amounts of blood that were spewing out of the back of my dad's head was non-emergent.
Luckily, her father wore a medical alert necklace, and pressing that button sent help their way. But that was over 15 minutes after the scary fall.
They tell me, make sure you keep pressure on the back of that head with a dry towel. Well, we soaked 5 towels.
In 2022, more than 30,000 of the 183,000 total 911 calls answered by LPD were abandoned. That means the caller hangs up before the call is answered. In a recent statement, Lubbock Mayor Trey Payne says the city's 911 dispatch issue should be improving, not getting worse. Last summer, the Lubbock City Council gave LPD nearly $7.5 million. Funds that Mayor Payne says should have been, quote, effectively used to address the 911 issue. We've reached out to LPD about these concerns, but we haven't heard back just yet. Acker says if it weren't for her father's medical alert device, he may not still be here with us today.
That's not something that we are dependent on the taxpayers for. We pay for that out of our pocket. We're fortunate to be able to do that.
Acker wants to make sure something is being done to keep this from happening again.
This is real. This happened to us, and it was extremely scary. I haven't had peace about it because I don't know what our next step is. I don't know who to call. I don't know who can help. How do we handle this? We have to do better. Lubbock has to do better.
KAMC Jaxie Pigeon reporting. Now, police provided us evidence they did call Ms. Acker back as a result of her first 911 call that they admittedly missed. Ms. Acker claims, though, that that was only a result of the medical alert necklace. Regardless, after that story aired on the news, Councilwoman Dr. Jennifer Wilson posting this reply stating in part, "It is unacceptable that any citizen's call for emergency services goes unanswered. I'm working with the city manager to ensure these issues are resolved immediately." And District 1 Councilwoman Christy Martinez Garcia saying she talked again to some of the parties involved and came away with this. "I'm concerned," she says, "that the safety of our constituents continues to be compromised. We must assure our citizens that we will follow through in taking the necessary and corrective actions they expect." This is far from over at Citizens Tower. We'll continue to follow this for you.